Hello, YouTube world. I want to say hello to my friends, my family, my colleagues, my viewers, and my subscribers. Welcome back to Rebirth. Now, we have about 2 more days left before we leave Mental Health Awareness Month. And before we leave Mental Health Awareness Month, I would like to drop 2 nuggets. And one of my nuggets that I'm dropping is basically on mental health. We're going to talk about mental health right now. And when we finish with that, I will drop another nugget in this video. And it's going to be to all Floridians and people who are visiting Florida. There is a situation right now happening in Florida. I just got a message early this morning, about 2 hours ago. And I want to make everyone aware of what we're dealing with right here in Florida. So stay tuned. Stay on this channel. Go through this video all the way from beginning to end so that you can hear the second nugget I'm dropping. Now let's move on to the topic of the day. Today we're going to talk about, we're in Mental Health Awareness Month, but we're going to talk about the common mental disorders that you need to know about. Now, these are mentioned also in the DSM-5, and that is by the American Psychiatric Association. And that is a book that contains all the mental disorders and things like that that you need to know in mental health. Most clinicians, most psychiatrists carry this book. So let's move on. When we say, according to that DSM-5, there are a few mental health disorders that we all need to be aware of, and we need to know everything that we're dealing with that are or can be known to be triggered and can trigger those disorders. So mental health disease is frequently caused by a combination of factors, such as brain chemistry, developmental events, and environmental circumstances, which means there are no particular cause for mental health illnesses. Now, when we talk about mental illness, it is characterized in the change in an individual's behavior, emotional response, or thought that can cause distress or issues with functioning in social circumstances, employment, or just everyday family life. So we're talking about an illness that can interrupt you in a social, you can go at a social event. You can be at a basketball game or football game or a graduation, and it can be triggered. And this is how important it is to know the signs and the symptoms. Because when you know those things, you will know when it's coming on. You will know what's happening as it progresses and something is going to happen. You can see it. You can pick up on it. There are 5 disorders that I'm going to speak on this morning. And I'm going to just subtly go through them. I'm not going to try to talk about everything because it is a lot. You know, we are learning more and more about mental health disorders. So it's not like you're going to go in there and pick something and in 10 minutes you can talk about it and it's over and you done covered it all in a nutshell. No, that's not how it works in mental health or healthcare. So let's just take time. Let's go through these 5 and we're going to just discuss. The Library of Medicine talks about the stress or the stressors and trauma-related disorders. So we're gonna touch on these. And I love when people like to talk about PTSD. Let's talk about that. PTSD is a psychiatric disorder where a past trauma experience or witness or experience cause severe distress and disruption in your ordinary way of living. Now, these events can be something as simple as a head-on collision car accident or a multi-car pileup. It can go from one extreme to another, but it can cause PTSD. It can be the trigger that you need. It can be the trigger that can cause it. I mean, not you don't want it, but it's the trigger that can cause it. This is something that when you experience it, you're dealing with it for long term. And you must get help for that. So when we're talking about that, here's a list of more different events that can cause it. People sign up to go in the armed forces. Sometimes they are deployed and they go overseas. For an example, we had this Ukrainian incident right now, and this is probably it's going on right now. And think about all the men and women that are serving that are in this war. Now, when you think about those that are in the war, whether they're Russians, Iranians, Ukrainians, it doesn't matter. These people will end up with some form of PTSD. They're going to end up with that PTSD, and some going to end up with worse. So I'm mentioning this because this is something that we all need to know. When you talk about that, think about the people that are just in the war, but not fighting the war. The people that when that Russian, when he sends those missiles and when he's bombing these buildings with women and children in them, those families are going to deal with that for the rest of their lives. And it doesn't only hurt those people that are there. Think about the people that have family member over there and they're watching it from their television or listening to it on the radio. They're going to suffer from it as well. That's how PTSD sets in. That's how it comes into you. That's how you deal. That's what you're going through. That's what we're having to have to deal with when you talk about PTSD. It can also be something like a violent assault. These young boys, young men that play these games, they're out here, they go get guns and then they go to a store, these semi-automatic rifles, and they go to these stores and they just light it up. Some of those people are going to end up with PTSD. Sad to say, this is going to happen. They got to live with this for the rest of their life. Those survivors are going to live with that. We just had a school shooting. We just had a shooting at a store. Let me tell you something. These people are going to suffer for that. So we need to do something about that. Just a side note, that's a focus. People need to, our politicians, whomever that are working on this thing, they need to do something and do something fast because it's not letting up. And it doesn't matter whether it's the stores, whether it's schools, whether it's black on black crime, it doesn't matter. All of these things need to be dealt with and people need to talk about, not just a discussion, but we need professional people. And I'm not putting down people that are actors or anything like that, but let me tell you something. We need our professional people involved in this so that we can get something done. Bottom line. Moving on. Female may be walking from a store in the evening. It's getting dark. She jumped. Sexual assault. She may have to deal with PTSD. See, this is something serious. These things that happen to you, these events, whether you witness it, whether you're a part of it, or whether it's just you it happens to, you may end up with this disorder. Moving on, we have people being taken hostage, kidnapped, prisoners of war being tortured, terrorist attacks like 9/11. A lot of those people right now suffering from PTSD. Serious car accidents, I mentioned that earlier, and natural catastrophes. You know, these are the things that we must be mindful of, and that can cause PTSD. My second one is personality disorder. Personality disorder is recognized by the National Library of Medicine, and it is said is a long-term maladaptive habit or thought and behavior which can make it hard to build or sustain relationships, as well as manage everyday stress in both your personal life and your work life. So you're going to wrestle with this personality disorder because you've already been, it's already something that has happened to you. So now, if there's a signs, if you see someone, know someone, family member, a good friend, if you notice that they're showing signs, guess what? Let's talk to them about it. Let's get someone involved that's professional, and we can get them to get evaluated. We can get them to a place where someone can sit down with them and do an analysis, screening, and we can move forward with this. Let's get people the help that they need and not leaving them out there alone to deal with this, you know, disorder. Individuals with personality disorders may not realize that they even have it. And that's the reason why when we have knowledge of these things, we need to move forward and try to help people. That's all we can do. Once you do your part, you're good. I mean, you know, what's wrong with trying to do something to make a difference for the better? Okay, there are three major categories that we talk about here. And one is cluster A. And cluster A is about the odd and eccentric behavior. A person with odd and eccentric behavior. When you notice someone is acting weird, a little off, or what have you, you never seen it before. Let's address that. Let's address it. Let's talk about it. Let's get that person help. Cluster B. Cluster B goes into the dramatic and emotional or erratic behavior. They full of drama. And I'm talking about something that is not really not much of an issue. They make a big deal of it and they just take it to the 10th level. And you looking at them like, what's up? What's up with that? You know. And I'm not talking about a one-time thing. I'm talking about multiple events you see in this app. It's time to do something, people. Let's reach out to our loved ones. Let's reach out to our friends, and let's try to make this happen. Cluster C, anxious and fearful behavior. A person is always scared of something. A person always anxious and they just, you know, the anxiety is on the 10th level. You know, and it's like, whoa, you know, what's going on? No, they're coming after me. Oh, there's this. Did you see that? Oh, there's something in my, I'm scared to go they're scared to go and do in a room, on lights off all the time or whatever. There's something going on. Let's move towards checking into it. There's nothing wrong with asking a few questions. There's nothing wrong with seeing what you can do that you can help them with. Number 3, let's move to number 3. Psychotic disorders. Psychotic disorders are mental disease generate strange ideas and perceptions, causing a person to lose touch with reality. And see, we hear about these a lot when people talk about schizo. They say schizophrenia, schizoaffective, schizophreniform disorders. These disorders are in the schizo spectrum, so to speak. You have to respect that. You have to respect that because here's what we have. It's causing a person to lose touch with reality, which causes great distress and functional challenges throughout their daily life. So when we talk about those, some people get so paranoid that they're seeing things, delusions. They're seeing things that are not there. They are hearing voices when there's no one else around that they're talking to. Some people, you can see them walking down the street having a full conversation with someone. And I can tell you this, sometimes if you are in the right place at a certain time, you will see someone actually running from someone. And a lot of times you hear this, the government is after them. They're being chased by aliens or something like that. It's all kinds of things. So that's the psychotic disorder. These are the disorders that we're talking about, and these are the ones that are more common than others. And that's all the schizophrenias in the schizophrenia family. Now, some are substance abuse induced. So when you talk about somebody, LSD, for an example, that's a drug that when you overly use that drug, you will see things, you will hear things, you will hallucinate, you will, you be so far detached from reality until it's not even a joke anymore. It's nothing to laugh about, people. It's nothing to laugh about. So that's my number 3. Number 4, anxiety disorder. This is described by nervousness, worrying about things. You just got all these thoughts that you constantly concerned about, and you just constantly worrying. And there are tangible psychological, there are things that you're going to have these sensations. So you have to think about what this person is going through, these perceptions that they have in their minds, and then you'll notice this: if that person is really there, they will perspire a lot. Some of them will sweat a lot. And not only that, they'll have an elevated heart rate. So if you notice something like that, let's get help for that person. The types of these obsessive, one of the types are what we call OCD. Like I said, one thing, people a lot of times they'll claim OCD and they don't have it. But, get diagnosed. So, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, that's one of them. And a lot of you see people tell me, I'm doing this because I'm OCD. I do this a lot because I'm OCD or whatever. That's a lot of people they use OCD for everything, just about. And these are lay members. They don't really know what it is. They just heard talk about it, and then they just repeat it a lot. Another one is social anxiety disorder, or what they call social phobia. And so phobia is a fear of something. So you have these anxieties and you're always afraid of something. So that's another one that falls into that category. Another one, generalized anxiety disorder. And that's something that you need to think about, and the panic disorder. So with all that said, these are my anxiety. These are the ones that falls up under my category of anxiety disorder that is very common. People, please do your due diligence. Look this stuff up. It doesn't hurt to do a little research. Take some time out. Get off those sites that's humiliating people, and get on these sites that are trying to educate people. I'm not the only one that's doing these YouTube videos that's trying to educate people in health and other areas of knowledge, of education that can help you. Get away from all that drama stuff, because you're only training your mind to enjoy that kind of stuff, and you're going to gravitate to it. And I just not long ago, I saw on the news where they was at this big park. Everybody had a get together, and I want to say it was on Memorial Day. I know I want to say a few weeks ago, but people was together and a big fight broke out. And you actually you can hear people in the background chanting and cheering for a victor. They chose a winner. You know, they chose who they want. This is how these events are turning out. So people, let me tell you something, get away from that kind of stuff. Let's start training this brain here. Let's get this thing right up here. The last and not least, we're going to talk about eating disorder. And after we talk about eating disorder, my people, we're going to go right into the one that I was talking about. I have this, I have a nugget to drop for Florida. So after I talk about eating disorder, we're going to go right into that nugget. Eating disorder, it is characterized by a major persistent disruption in eating patterns and is frequently coupled with undesirable body preoccupations. My bad. Let's talk about types of eating disorder. Anorexia nervosa is one. Anorexia nervosa is one of these type of eating disorder where a person, they always see themselves as fat. And they want to do everything they can not to be fat. So it causes them to avoid eating. They intentionally starve themselves because they do not want to look big or fat. So my people, when you notice someone is thinner than most, or thinner than what they should be, or you have normally seen them, sometimes people think, first thing they think is drugs, or they have some type of severe disease or illness. But let me tell you something. There's an eating disorder that can cause that, called anorexia. So let's pay attention to that as well. Bulimia nervosa, that is another one. So when you're bulimic, sometimes you go into this thing where you want to eat a lot, but then throw it back up. A lot of people are dealing with that disorder. Many people is dealing with that disorder. And it's similar to binge eating, but not like the binge eating disorder itself. Because when we talk about binge eating disorder, you're talking about someone that goes in the kitchen. Sometimes these people are depressed. They will go into the kitchen, grab stuff, fix it up, come in, turn on the TV, watch a movie, and they sit there and just eat, eat, eat. There's no shame. There's no nothing. They just eat. They will even go to a all-you-can-eat buffet, sit down and go back and forth to those little troughs up there, getting the food, and they would sit down and eat. They would sit there for a couple of hours just eating. That's binge eating. This is not like the football players, people, where they burn so much and they eat a lot. This is different. You know, pro athletes, a lot of them, I can imagine, they eat a lot because they burn a lot of energy. They are continuously in motion a lot of times. So they're going to eat a lot. So you don't compare that with them. Okay, moving on. When you have rumination disorder, that is just repeatedly regurgitating your food. Some people will eat, some will binge eat, and then they will just constantly regurgitate. They will throw up their food. That's part of the eating disorder. Some have what they call an avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. Extremely picky about what they're eating that results in nutritional deficiencies. Because although they are picky doesn't mean they're dieting or just on a good diet. You know, I'm eating like this because I'm on a diet or whatever. No, these people are picky. It's a disorder. It's not being done right. They're not picking the right foods to eat because they're trying to eat nutritiously and have a nutritious value. They're not doing that. That's not what they're doing. This is a disorder. Okay. The last one is called pica. And this is the eating phase of non-food objects like chalk, metal, coins, pebbles, even paper. Now, this is what I've noticed. People that write with pencils and have the eraser. I've seen people that have taken that eraser and they gnaw on the end of that pencil, chewing that eraser. And I've seen that happen. I've seen people chew paper. We're not talking about this thing where you see kids put little small children take a piece of paper and bite off of it, chew it up and swallow it. No, we're not talking about it. This is a disorder where people are actually eating these objects. They are eating it. It is a disorder, people. And to my YouTube family, please be able to pick up on these things. Please look for these things because you never know who has these problems until we pay attention to them. And now for the nugget of the day. Please, again, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We are doing it on this channel. This channel is growing. I want to thank God for 200. I've broken 200 subscribers. A lot of people say that's not a lot, but for the time I spend on my channel, that's a lot. I don't spend much time on my channel. Recently, I've been doing a lot, but thank you. Here's the nugget of the day. For Florida, this is a safety memo that came out. This thing came out, this hit my inbox this morning, around about 7:30, close to 8 o'clock. Florida candy recall. Metal shreds found in the candy. They call it tainted candy sold in Florida. People, listen, you have children, you got family. You're sending your kids to the stores with money, you know, to buy them themselves something and things like that. You want to tell them, do not buy these candies. And I'm going to give you a list of them right now. The FDA is warning consumers about contaminated candy sold in Florida. The agency announced that candy makers Mars Wrigley is voluntarily recalling several types of Skittles, Starburst, and Lifesavers gummy candy because of the possible contamination of thin metal strips. Now, I want to say this because when we say thin metal strips, we're not talking about thin metal strips that is visual once you pick up a piece of candy and just pop it in your mouth. This is once you take, some people like to look at their candy before they eat it or something like that. These are the people that's picking up on it, not those that reach in the bag and just throw it in their mouth. You have people that love the gummies so much, they'll take it, they'll read the Lifesavers on it, and then they'll eat it. They're the ones that's spotting this stuff. They're picking up on it because of that habit that they have looking at the candy first. Not because they're being safe, but it's just a habit. That's a behavior. They look at it before they eat it. These are the people picking up on it. And they're calling in and they're letting this agency know that, hey, listen, there's something in this candy that isn't right. And they found out that it was metal strips, thin, small metal strips. People, be careful, because according to the company, the very thin metal strands may be embedded in the gummies or loose in the bag. Think about it. Several consumers alerted to the company to the problem, but so far, thank God, no injuries have been reported. So according to Mars Wrigley, products were manufactured by a third party, and distributed in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So the products subject to this recall is in the US includes Skittles, gummies, Starburst, and the Lifesavers gummies. So I just want to drop that nugget off to y'all. I love you, my YouTube family, and let's stay up with our health. Let's focus on doing the things that we need to do. And as always, I am Robbie Williams, founder of Rebirth. Click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you will always get my newest videos as they are released. And I would like to say, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. To all of those out there that's struggling with mental health issues, I love you all, as well as medical issues physically. I love you all, and God bless. Have a wonderful day.